Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. You join me on a very cold, windy, did I mention cold, evening to talk about Legions Imperialis and a sort of a throwback memories of Epic from back in the day. This is inspired by a channel I really enjoy called Simply Warhammer, who a couple of days ago at this point did a video entitled Fixing Legions Imperialis. And I will link that down below. Great channel, really recommend checking them out, checking out the vid, giving them a good thumbs up and a subscribe. You won't regret it. But he made me think with this particular topic, because I was there 3,000 years ago when Epic came out originally. And this was back in the days of Rogue Trader. And back then, it began just as it did with the contemporary version of Epic, with the release of Adeptus Titanicus as a Horus Heresy Titan v Titan game. And it wasn't bad from what I recall. We did play it a fair bit as I remember. A very simple system. I don't really recall the mechanics of it too much, but a very simple system, much as Games Workshop's games were back then. And it was followed shortly thereafter by Space Marine, which was the Epic version of Horus Heresy, but with just the little Space Marines, five tiny little blobs on a square base. And it didn't take them long to do like what they've done here with Legions Imperialis and combine the two together into Epic 40k. Originally, as I mentioned, they were part of the Horus Heresy, which I always found strange at the time for the same reason that I'm not a big fan of Heresy now. Horus Heresy was a bit of a shoehorn in for Chaos to get them into the setting. And it always felt a bit strange that they didn't just leap straight in with the 41st millennium. But it didn't take them too long. And within a couple of years, you weren't just having Space Marines, Loyalist, and Traitor. Suddenly they introduced the likes of the Imperial Guard, Eldar, Orcs, Chaos, Tyranids, Squats. There was no Tau or Necrons in those days, but all the other armies, and no Drakari either, no Dark Eldar. And they combined it together, so you can build a force that was these big Knights, or Titans, sorry. Knights did exist back then, they're a little bit different to what they are now. And you could combine a mixture of everything, and it was a scaled down, or scaled out, depending how you want to view it, version of Warhammer 40k, with a relatively simple enough system. Unfortunately, when Games Workshop decided to shift their focus fully into the likes of Warhammer Fantasy Battle and Warhammer 40k, Epic got pushed to the sidelines. We probably played, I would guess, more Epic than we did 40k back then. My friends and I. There was about 5 or 6 of us that played. And I had an Eldar army, which I bought off of a friend in order to play. I always wanted to have a Chaos army, though. The original Chaos Titans had really cool attachments to make them stand out, because this was back in the day when Chaos was very much about mutation. And I can remember things like Slanesh Titans, which had long gangly whips to be very kinky. And things like that sort of really, sort of fleshy tendrils and what have you, really sort of made Chaos stand out a little bit more, made them a little more interesting than they are perhaps now. When Adeptus Titanicus came back out several years ago, there was quite a bit of a following for it in our local club at the time. There was probably another good half dozen or so players that picked it up and ran with it. And I took a look, and unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed Epic, I was very much turned off. I felt that they had taken a relatively simple system and made it a little too complicated. I don't recall them ever going that sort of far with Epic back in the day with Titans, but now like you had to keep track of heat venting and weapons being blown off and things like that. And I don't really remember the original Titanicus having that. And I would rather just play a straightforward game that doesn't require so much bookkeeping. But that's just me. I know the guys really enjoyed it. And we've been, I suppose I say they've been hoping for Epic for some time. Personally, I'm waiting on a redux of Battlefleet Gothic, or Space Fleet as it was called in the original release. I should talk about that one day. And I was quite stoked for Epic. Sorry, I should call it Legions Imperialis. Because I always have such fond memories of Epic of old. And suddenly, when they announced it, it was Horus Heresy again. And I've spoken about this before. I'm kind of sick to the back teeth of Heresy. I feel that it's overdone. It's been pushed too far. The book series has gone on twice as long as the actual Civil War did. But people are so for it. But I think they've missed a big trick. And it's the same thing they did with the original Epic, in that you focused on Space Marines and I can't think what they've called now. I've said this, but basically the Astra Militarum sort of equivalent in this. They should, and I hope they still do this. I hope they go 40k with it, and they introduce Eldar, Orcs, Tyranids, Votan, Necrons, Tau, and bring everybody into Legions Imperialis. Because you're cutting out 90%, maybe not that high, but you're cutting out a huge chunk of the potential player base purely because you focused on Horus Heresy, which in this instance is Marines and Guard, and maybe they might do Mechanicus or what have you. If they really wanted to make this a game a go of it, I really feel that they should kick Horus Heresy to the curb for the purposes of this and bring everybody in. Give everybody, everyone's going to bring their go out and buy the models for their particular 40k army and play it on the big scale. The other problem you've got is cost. I've seen a number of videos talk about this, and I've seen people in our local store comment about this, but the cost to actually have a 3,000 point army, I think is the default, is astronomical. It's crazy. That's Games Workshop's pricing for you, though, but it's pricing a number of people out of the hobby, I think, out of that particular game anyway. I think they should kind of reduce it down a little bit, simplify the rules a little bit more, take a look at what made the original Epic so easy to play, so straightforward. Taking a cue from, not a massive cue, but taking a cue from 10th edition, it should be simple but not simplified. Or whichever way around that particular saying went. I really think they should make their system for it accessible to everybody that wants to take part. And drop the cost slightly. Make it so that it's viable to build, your default size army without having to remortgage your house. I would like to play Imperialis if they did that. If they were to bring it up to 40k level, contemporary timeline. But these days, I don't know about you, but my gaming budget is very limited. I'm trying to push myself out of the old FOMO thing and not worry about it and just slowly expand. But I can't afford, personally, to run 2 games. Not like this, anyway. Just a quick vid, just a few thoughts on Epic / Legions Imperialis. And what are your thoughts on it? Are you enjoying it? Do you feel the same way, or would you rather it stick to Horus Heresy? Do you think it's overpriced? At least to build that size game that they kind of expect people to be playing. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon in another vid. Take care. Pop your comments down below. Don't forget, I'm going to link to Simply Warhammer's video down there. Check him out. Give him a subscribe and a big thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in the next vid. Take care, guys. Good gaming.